Good afternoon, everybody. Really warm welcome to this afternoon's session, where we're looking at the exciting world of indie publishing, and it's really a great pleasure to have with us two of the most exciting voices in the world of indie publishing from the UK and from India, Vasudendra from Chandapustika from India, and Isabelle Kenyon from Fly on the Wall Press from the UK. So we're going to be talking all about what it's like to be an indie publisher. How do you survive and thrive in the cutthroat world of publishing today? What are some of the challenges that indie publishers face? What are some of the advantages that indie publishers have that large corporate publishing houses maybe don't have? From the dizzying highs to the crushing lows, what it's like to be an indie publisher. And most importantly, we want to bring across just how important a force indie publishing houses are to support diverse perspectives and diverse voices in the world of publishing today. Before we leap into the conversation with Isabelle and Vasudendra, I just wanted to take the opportunity to put this conversation in context from a British Council point of view and say a little bit about why the British Council is supporting this session and why we're supporting indie publishing in general. So the job of the British Council is to build connections between India and the UK, between people and institutions in India and the UK, across all sorts of different fields, from education to language to arts and culture. Through building these connections, we're hoping to increase trust, increase understanding, increase trust. Literature is absolutely a core part of that. It's a really important way of building connections and building understanding across cultures, between cultures. I think actually anybody who's listened to any of the sessions at JLF over the past few days will have seen as good evidence as any of just how powerful a tool literature can be at building trust, building connections, building understanding across cultures. So it's a really important tool for us to build those connections. But what's really important for the British Council is that when we talk about building connections through literature across cultures, that we're not just talking about building connections between one subset of society and another subset of society. We're not just talking about building connections between the same old usual suspects. But we want to ensure that we're building connections and providing opportunities to connect to as many people in the UK and India as possible, and connecting them to as wide an array of perspectives and voices as possible. So that's why we have a huge emphasis on diversity in publishing in all of our work on literature. We want to empower writers and publishers from the UK and India who showcase and promote diverse perspectives and diverse voices. So that might look like any number of things. We have a big focus on supporting writers from marginalized communities, including the LGBTQIA+ community. We've got a big program called Language is a Queer Thing, where we support LGBTQIA+ poets from India and the UK to work together, to do residencies together, write new poems together, and then showcase those on international platforms. We just were at the Kolkata Literary Meet last week. We also do a lot of work on Indian languages. We want to bring Indian language literature to new audiences in the UK and around the world. So we've done a lot of work on translation. We did a big program with Assamese writers and Assamese translators, and translated a lot of Assamese stories into English for the first time, and are now bringing those stories to new audiences in the UK and around the world. And then we have our International Publishers Fellowship, which is our flagship publishing program, and that supports independent publishers from the UK, from all over the world, to visit different international platforms, to get exposed to different innovative practices in publishing from around the world. And we've supported dozens of independent publishers from the UK and from India over the past few years. And every year we now support one independent publisher from the UK and one from India to come, first of all, to Jaipur Bookmark, and then in a couple of months' time to go to London Book Fair. I think it's in March. So our 2025 fellows are Isabelle and Vasu. And the hope is that through this international exposure, through networking with all of you, through getting exposed to these new innovative practices, we'll be able to support Isabelle and Vasu to scale up their businesses, expand their reach, and bring the diverse perspectives and voices that their publishing houses represent to new audiences in the UK and India and beyond. So that's the idea anyway. And with that, I think we can leap into the conversation. So Isabelle, why don't we start with you? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about Fly on the Wall Publishing? And sort of how did you started almost immediately after you graduated from university, I think. So what sort of drove you as a recent graduate to sort of set up a publishing house? Was it, you know, an absence in the publishing scene that you noticed that you wanted to fill, or what sort of drove you to set it up, and what's the journey been like over the past 7-8 years running an independent publishing house?
Yeah, hello everyone. Lovely to see you all here. So I accidentally started a publishing house at 21. It was accidental because I was working in theatre. Absolutely always loved the arts. And I started first rung after university and was working as a marketing assistant in a theatre. And for me, when you work in the arts and you're sort of bottom of the team, if you like, and you progress in recent years, I've always been someone who likes to take on a lot of projects, who likes to be leading things and loves my own projects. So I wanted to do something that, whilst I worked in the creative arts, it felt like I was working with other writers, and for the first time performing my work and working towards like a common goal, which I found the community of writers that I was building and the people I was meeting at that time were really keeping me going and were really exciting. So in the first year, 2018, we put together 2 anthologies which were profits all went to charity. So the first book was for the UK mental health charity, which is called Mind. And the second anthology that year, which was about homelessness and social exclusion, went to 2 charities. One is called Crisis Aid UK, and the other was Shelter, which works with homelessness. So in that first year, we just had a blog, and people from all around the world can submit to us, and did at the time. And we built a real sense of community in that first year. People really felt passionate about the charities we were fundraising for, so that when we went into 2019 and started publishing individual collections and books by writers, we had a real sense of the kind of people that wanted to work with us and that supported social change. So now we publish novels, short stories, and poetry by writers all over the world who have that common goal of wanting to raise awareness about something. So that could be mental health, that could be a feminist issue, that could be something about social exclusion, or even just celebrating being gay, So we really, the topics which we cover are broad, which is exciting because a lot of people at the festival have said the personal is political, and we kind of feel that as well. When you're saying about, was there a gap in the industry, I feel like at the time there was. And there is always a gap, I feel, in publishing for something personal, where the writer can work closely with an editor. I know that the higher up you go, perhaps the less you are able to consult with your publishers on things like cover design, a close interrogation of characters, perhaps, and that kind of personal growth for the author and support is something which we're able to offer. And the books that we do, we always want them to be accessible. We want them to have a political heart and have a literary quality of excellence, but we also want them not to alienate the general reader. So if that reader only reads 1 or 2 books a month, a month, that's still quite a lot, a year, then if they picked up one of our books, we would want them to be inspired and still want to continue reading because they found it accessible and exciting and something which generates discussions for them. And now in our 7th year, it's going well, I'm pleased to say, and we have lots of strands to what we do. One of the things which we're doing since 2019 actually is something called the Northern Publishers Fair. So in the UK, London is kind of the epicenter of publishing, but there's been a move so that a lot of the bigger publishers, HarperCollins, Hachette, to name 2, have moved to Manchester. But even before that, we were celebrating independent publishing and bringing people into this fair, whereby they could connect with readers and network. And since then, we've noticed there's a real appetite for readers to connect with us and for writers to meet publishers with a common sense of mind and work.
Good, great.
Yeah.
So thanks very much, Isabelle. There's lots and lots of really, really interesting things there that will come to sort of bring out a little bit more in later questions on some of the challenges that you face, some of the advantages of independent publishing. But Vasu, why don't we turn to you now? Sort of the same question. If you can tell us a little bit about your background, what it's like running Chanda Pustika.
Yeah.
You've been in the game for over 20 years, so maybe you can say 21 years. You can say a little bit about what it's been like, what the triumphs and the challenges along the way, what the journey's been like, and what continues to drive you 21 years later.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I think I'm very happy that British government has chosen me for the fellowship this year, because to become an author and as well as a publisher, United Kingdom has an indirect role. So I'll just explain what it is. Actually, I was a software engineer, basically. So I'm a Master of Engineers from Indian Institute of Science. And then I was working in the software field, and my company was a UK-based company. So they deputed me to United Kingdom to work for 3 to 4 years, So what happened there was, in India, generally we work like our Infosys head Narayana Murthy says, we work for 100 hours or 120 hours per week. So that's the kind of workaholic I was. And after going to United Kingdom, so they don't work more than 7 hours a day, like they close the office and they ask you to go. So they don't allow you to stay in the office. So
I'm not quite sure I would agree with that.
I don't know. It's a time of 98 to 2002, and I had plenty of time. I was alone and had a lot of time, okay? So then that's the time I felt like I should start writing more. I have enough time. Such a nice way, like you are working only for 7 to 8 hours, and if Friday it comes, it will becomes 4 hours only. So I said, let me work. And weekend, they never call you to office. So that's kind of a lovely working culture they have. So I started writing. Within that 4 years, I had completed writing worth of 3 books. Okay, then I returned back to India. I wanted to publish them, so and I approached 50 publishers, Kannada publishers. Out of that, only one publisher was kind enough, and he replied to me saying that, sorry, we'll not be able to publish. So all the remaining 49 didn't even respond back to me, and that is the time. So I thought, why can't I publish myself? Why did I get that courage? Once again, thanks to United Kingdom, because they have given me pounds, So I had a lot of investment in my hand. It was not that difficult to start a publication house. Accidentally, I started in 2004, January. Okay, so January is the time. So I started my publication. You believe it or not, it became a success actually. Immediately, all my 3 books were sold so well. Within 6 months, I was doing a reprint of all the books. Then I realized, if this is happening to me, so it might be happening with the other many upcoming authors in Kannada. So there is a need for someone to recognize the new people and publish their books. So I said that I'm going to do that. So now my publication mainly recognizes new upcoming talent. Okay, if you are a celebrated author, your book will not be published. You are overqualified for me. So I will not. Even if I publish an author, and if he becomes popular and if he becomes a celebrity, I will not publish his book again. So that kind of a mindset I have, and I'm doing it successfully from 21 years. Absolutely no gaps in between, like it's smooth. Every year, 6 books. I cannot publish more books because I'm an author. I have to balance both. So my author time and this thing, and I have left my job also. Now it's already more than 20 years. I was a vice president of a company, so I left the job 10 years back, and now I'm very happy and peaceful, and it's doing well. In the beginning, the challenges were, like, it's not easy to keep your books in the bookshops. they don't even accept it, like I had to go and beg literally. See, here in the office, I'm getting a paycheck of something like 1.5 lakhs, 2 lakhs per month, and there I had to go and ask, sir, 50 rupees is pending, 100 rupees is pending, so can you please pay back our check or something like that. It was very tough for me to, ego was hurting me, like I had to do all those things, but I had done everywhere. And I used to open book stalls in all the literary functions. So Kannada literary functions is not this sophisticated. So more than 800,000 people attend the Kannada book event, and it will be across Karnataka, everywhere. Yearly once it happens in a remote place, actually. It's not even in Bangalore. So I used to literally carry the book bundles on my shoulder, and I had to go and stand in those places and then sell. And till today, so almost 20 years over, till today, every year I go, and now things have become smooth because everyone knows what I have done. The time was there when I used to struggle to sell even 50 books per month. Now, easily I sell anywhere between 2,000 copies to 3,000 copies every month from my publication, and I'm getting enough money, so there is no cash for the money. So somewhere I feel we need to really identify what was the need of the book, this thing. Thanks to Corona also, after the Corona, sales have doubled actually. So everyone is reading more books, and we're happy now. So that's where I stand. Until today, I'm the only employee. So there's no more employee. I'm the only one who does everything, except aesthetic sense I don't have, so I'll ask the cover page to be done by a designer somewhere outside, and all other things, including layout, design, proof corrections, everything, and even sending it to printing and raising the invoice, everything is my responsibility, and I'm doing it happily.
Okay. Thanks very much for that, Vasu. And I'm very curious to find these UK companies that only work 4 hours a day on Friday.
No, it may not be.
Thank you very much. I think so. Thank you so much to both of you for these sort of opening remarks, and you've really brought out some interesting things about some of the challenges that you faced, some of the areas where independent publishing really excels. I think it would be interesting to focus a little bit more on the question of audience. So Vasu, you spoke about you've grown from 50 books to 2,000 books. Isabelle, you were speaking a little bit about how you can really work in a very personal way with the authors, and you've got quite a niche when it comes to your sort of fiction with a social conscience. So can you talk about how you build an audience, and also how do you strike a balance between if you're building an audience that sort of wants a particular thing, how do you speak to that audience whilst also still trying to bring in new voices and new formats and experimentation and diversity? Would you be able to speak to that first?
Yeah, of course. So obviously we have the ability to connect with people internationally now that we have these free channels, social media, but we also have a challenge with that. So it can be removed at any point. The thousands of connections that you've made can vanish. So you have to be resilient as a small publisher, and indeed as a big publisher, but you have to think, where are the readers for our books? You have to strategize, and you have to think, if I lose that, how else am I going to reach those readers? So in recent years, we did used to focus online because that, meant with our international authors we could focus on that and reach the widest readership. But now we have a really big event strategy, whether it's online or in person. And I think last year we did 34 events. Bear in mind, I'm also a one-woman publisher, so it is a lot. However, the in-person connections that you make are always fruitful. I think you form something more personal. They get an experience of speaking to an author, and we all love to know the journey behind a book and how the author has got there, because it's inspiring. So that's something which we really value, but also in recent years we really value our Substack, which is a newsletter. But it kind of means that we can talk more in depth. It began with journalists who were using this platform to provide a way of telling news which was unbiased. Because, of course, all around the world, our media is becoming more right-wing, and the number of voices and the way that opinions are expressed are perhaps becoming smaller and tighter in their worldview. So with Substack, we've been demystifying the publishing industry. We have a really large readership, and what you were saying about how do you choose has been something which I've been asking myself a lot, because as a small press, you have two people who connect with you. You have writers and you have readers, and the readers may not be writers, and you have to decide what is that rhetoric and the way of speaking to them. And you have to choose, being one person, what is that marketing strategy going to be, if you like. And I have noticed that writers, I call them super fans, if they really, really love your publishing company, they will submit to you a lot. But there may be a certain time when that writer has unfortunately been rejected, because we can only do a certain amount of books a year. And we may have a writer who's very similar to them, and the nature of the industry that not every writer will be published. And so that writer may go away and not become our super fan anymore. And they may be disheartened. So in recent years, we've realized that we can connect with writers, but because writing is so personal, we now, with our rhetoric, focus on readers and building those connections where they love a story so much that they say, "Mum, you have to read this," or they give it to their child, or they tell someone of their friend about it. And we focus on bookshops and hand selling, whereby the bookseller is so excited about that they go and tell their customers. And these kind of word of mouth recommendations are how we reach people, writers as well. I think it's a really genuine connection when you just really connect with a character and think, do you know what, this is a story I want to go on to tell. So I think that's how we get around the challenges of being small, but you always find these kind of independent publishing champions, and they have a really loud voice.
Yeah, thanks very much, Isabelle. And so, Vasu, you spoke a little bit about how you've grown your audience, but do you have sort of a niche that Chanda Pustika looks at, or how have you cultivated an audience, in Karnataka, around India, around the world?
In fact, I have been consistent on the kind of books I am publish, okay? So I am always on the fiction side, and of course non-fiction as well, but mostly the literature based, so it's a non-literature or academic work, so I do not publish. So those restrictions I have. And people have seen me what I am doing, it's not like an English word where the readers and authors will not be connected, so they will not be contacting, and they will not be talking much there in the English word if you take it up. But they will have our mobile number also. All of them. They will have our email ID also. So everything will be there in the book. They will be in touch with me. So they will be in touch with me. In fact, I can proudly say, whichever the Karnataka village or city if I go, there will be some houses who will be happy to invite me and host me at their home and feed me as well with love. So that kind of a one-to-one connection we'll have. And they have seen the kind of books which we have published. Okay, so they have read and they have recommended. So when I have published someone's books, now they are seniors and they're celebrities. Okay, and in fact, the most important award in India for a young writer is our Central Sahitya Academy gives Yuva Puraskar. Okay, that I have got it for, my publication got it for 4 consecutive years. 4 times we have got the Yuva Puraskar. It's very rare in India, a publication house getting so many times. It's very rare actually. So we got it. And I have not published many books. It's only 106 books in this 21 years. Okay, not more than that. So they know, and kind of authors who I am publishing, they would have never heard. it's a new thing actually for them. There's a new author for the first time they are coming into picture. But when I say that I'm publishing this book and this is what it's going to be, the brand is coming from my publication, they will be happy to buy without any difficulty. Okay, so that is easy. And social media helped me a lot actually. The social media is like in our case more than any social media means it's actually WhatsApp for us. So WhatsApp, previously what book distribution was a challenge for all of us actually in Canada. How do we send a book? How do they come to know and all? Now, anybody who contacts me related to a Kannada book, he will be there in my mobile. Okay, so at least I have minimum to 10 to 12,000 Kannada readers numbers in my mobile. Okay, so any book when it is launched, so I will send a WhatsApp graphic poster to all those 12,000 people. So easily, in fact, my previous, just in September, I launched a book and I got immediate pre-booking order for 3,000 copies. 3,000 copies. Now it's 6,000 copies are sold now. Okay, so so that kind of a response will come because they know me personally. And they feel very good when a message goes from me through WhatsApp, you know, so they receive a message. And I treat them very friendly, like I don't shut them down if they call or something. So, but they are also very sensitive and they know when to call and all. And I have taken risk actually. See, in 2013, I published a book on gay theme. So it's Mohana Swami. So many of you would have read in various languages. So Mohan Swami is my, it's coming out stories of mine. So when other publishers would have not taken that risk at all, absolutely, there was nobody was willing to take that risk. But I took that risk and I published. And we are the first timers for many of the tasks of our publication. For example, audiobook. So we are all talking about audiobooks now. What we did is in 2006, actually, I made CDs by reading the entire book and I sold it for 50 rupees, that CD. Okay, 2006 actually. So that also have sold 4,000 copies at that time, you know. So that's how it was. Means we are trying all them. Like the first timer for Braille book. Nobody was willing to do the Braille book for Kannada, you know, so it's very difficult to print. And if I go to printing, this is only government printer is there for the Braille, for Kannada Braille. That they have typical government activity. They have given the Kannada Braille printing this thing project to West Bengal company. And you know, the Bengalis don't have many characters in their language. They don't have A. Instead of A, they say O. Ananya means they say Ononyo. So these Bengalis have made Braille in all those errors. Right? So I said, like, I came into picture, I want to do a Braille book, but I can't have errors. For me, the quality is important. So then what I did, I went to my friend and said, see, this is what is happening. How can you help me? He had developed a software for Kannada, and he said, Vasu, this is just an ASCII character. So I'll just change the ASCII character and you will have the proper one. We did it. He did it in 2 days, that ASCII conversion software for the Braille. And I published the books in the Braille. So such kind of innovations have come from us. So from so many innovations. So people look forward for me. I mean, even big publishers check what I'm going to do next. Okay. So that kind of a image which we have built. So now it's easy for me to sell actually.
So a really good indication of how independent publishers can be innovators and risk takers in various different
First
ways.
Graphic book. No one was willing to do a graphic novel. We did Persepolis. Persepolis we did.
So let me ask now about sort of the international dimension. So you're both taking part in this international publishing fellowship. Could you sort of reflect a little bit about how international connections sort of help you as individuals and as businesses to grow? And Isabelle, I mean, it would be especially interesting to hear how you found your experience at Jaipur Bookmark as, you know, here rubbing shoulders with publishers from different countries. Any reflections on what you've learned and how it's been beneficial?
Yeah, well, firstly, I think a festival of this size and with this much diversity in author and also sort of profile of author would probably cost about £200 a ticket in the UK. And I think it believes it's 200 rupees now, so that's about £2 less in the UK. So £2 to 200, good value, I would say. And I have loved how passionate everyone is here. I think the young people that are so excited about books and the almost celebrity culture of the authors here, perhaps it's because Brits are reserved, but an author would not be treated as a celebrity as they are here in a good way. We are really celebrating the quality here, which is fantastic. I think the international connections for publishers, the reasons that we do these fellowships, that we go around the world and talk to other publishers in other languages and seek translation and seek to get those books traveling in other countries. All the time we're kind of finding a vocabulary for our books and saying why a book has cross-cultural appeal and why it's international. So we're kind of sharing that passion with people, sharing that excitement. And you do find that common vocabulary between, say, a French publisher and an English publisher, or a Tamil publisher and a French publisher. And that's exciting to see that actually people are not so different, and characters that we are writing are not so different. We're all joined by love and loss and grief and all the things which we experience, which are complex in our lives, but not so simple when it comes, or perhaps it is simple when we put it down on paper. And I very much feel that, by being here and by traveling as publishers, we show bookshops what perhaps they're not currently representing for their audience. And we say, I think you could have a really big audience for this kind of feminist story. And in that way, our books are traveling. We're getting people excited in that way. And for me, I think, I will go home and I will understand better what stories are being told here, which are different to the kind of stories and perspectives which are being offered in the UK, and have that kind of future vision about what a British audience is not currently reading, and how we can accommodate that and bring new authors and voices to the UK.
Great, thanks very much, Isabelle. I'm going to come to audience questions in a couple of minutes. I'm going to ask one more question to both of you. And this question has been asked at several sessions at JLF, and the answer is always, well, I can't predict the future, but I'm going to ask you anyway. If you can talk a little bit about how you see the future of A, your own publishing houses, and B, independent publishing more generally. How do you see that developing over the coming years?
I think I need to speak from all the vernacular language, on behalf of all vernacular language. Though I said UK is promoted me as a publisher now, another problem which we are facing is English is dominating all the Indian languages. Now, no parents want to send their son or their kids to a Kannada medium school. So all our young kids, they are not reading our books, Kannada books. They prefer to read English books. Okay, this is a real challenge for all of us. How do we make our own kids and kins to read our stories in our language? It has become a challenge for all of us, and I'm scared of the future. Okay, so but still, we think that at least let us cross the language barriers. All these days, so we were restricted, thinking that Kannada books is for Karnataka border only. Now I am not thinking any longer like that. If he is an English reader, he is also my Kannada reader. If you are a Hindi reader, you are also my Kannada reader. So I'm reading Tolstoy, I'm reading Marquez. So why not? Why can't they read our stories also? So I feel this international, such kind of a publishing meets, okay? So where I can make contact with the various publishers and take our books to them and also bring their books as well. Because I have already bought identified translator from Germany, Turkey, and French also. So I have published all these books from German to direct Kannada, from Turkey to Kannada. So somehow I found out and I have published all these books. Means my translation is almost 50%. When compared to translation and this thing. So it's our original books, 50% translations we have published, and it has been very good. And also technology now has helped in a way that now you don't have to go out of print with any book. So it is because now POD has come, print on demand, we go for only 200 copies, 300 copies, depending upon the market. So all our 106 books, any book you ask, you'll get a copy. And they're all available. There is no, the Indian publishers had a habit of putting a star and saying that copies are not available in the book list, right? You will not find that any longer with our book list. All 106 books, anytime you want a copy, you will get it from them. That confidence which I have about technology is also helping. And in future, like more experimentation, and try to take audiobooks also to the younger generation, because younger generation can understand Kannada, but they cannot read. They cannot write. So at least can we teach them, they can listen to the audiobooks, so that will solve my problem. So this is a real issue. And of course, it's the case with whether you take Telugu, whether you take Hindi, everyone is saying this is the problem. I see this as the biggest problem. How do you face the challenges posed by English? Because English gets you money. Kannada doesn't get you money, actually. So if you know the English language, you will get a very good job. If it's like Kannada, you won't get a good job, actually. So that is what is the problem which I am facing. I'm confident our language is 2,000 years old. Okay, so 2,000 years old language, it has sustained for so many years. I'm confident it will remain for another 2,000 years.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Isabelle, sort of same question. Where do you see the future of Fly on the Wall going, and about independent publishing houses in the UK?
Yeah, so I very much always feel that we're small but mighty. So it's very much irrelevant to me that I'm one person. It's also very much irrelevant that the industry sees me as a small publisher, because my vision is to be as big as Penguin, and I don't really mind that seems like an ambitious idea.
Reach for the stars.
Yeah, I mean, we've got, for example, this year, a book called GRQ by a Hollywood screenwriter called Steven Bernstein. The Netflix film is coming out, and we have agents coming to us. We have international bestsellers such as John Ironmonger, and my vision is that the audiobook companies that are coming to us will buy something, and they'll buy everything, and they'll buy the catalogue, and the film companies that are coming to us will buy everything, and the same with translation. We would love to be in, say, an author can be available in the majority of languages, and visibility in not just the chain bookshops in the UK, which I'm very proud to have a strong visibility in, but abroad, and getting people, because we publish international stories, I want them to be available in multiple languages, so that, as you say, people shouldn't have to read a book in English. They can read it in whatever language they want to be. So I imagine that will involve me having more team members, which I'm also open to.
Okay, very, very exciting. Okay, so let's go to audience questions then. So there was this woman here, and then on the
Hi.
right there. Hi.
Yeah. Hi. I think the voice is not coming.
We can hear you.
It's okay.
We can hear you.
Yeah. My first question is for you, and then there'll be one for both of you. You're already doing translations from English, from Turkish, from other languages to Kannada. Are you also doing other Indian languages and
very
English to Kannada?
Very much. Directly from Tamil to Kannada, Bangla to Kannada, Malayalam to Kannada, Tamil to Kannada, all I have published. Marathi to Kannada, Hindi to Hindi many. Ashutosh Bharadwaj, now I am bringing Manoj Roopdas novel. So I have also got 3-4 Hindi books. Translation within Indian language, somehow I manage. I don't want to use the English bridge in the because it will lose the essence if we do that. So I personally train people in the translation. Means I don't know all the languages. I know Telugu. I'm myself a translator. Telugu to Kannada I have translated. I have translated from English to Kannada. So I have done that also. So, but I personally train them on how to form the Kannada readable languages.
How do you check on quality for the other languages?
No, initial stages, I'll ask someone who knows the language to find out, and afterwards, at least as a Kannada reader, I should be able to understand it. So that I will try to do that one. So it is working fine. Our German translation has done very well. So and I don't want to go for the classics. I want to go for the contemporary writer who is writing presently in that language. See, it's very easy for most of the publications to publish the books which have won Booker Prize, which has won Nobel Prize, then they immediately publish those books. But what about the contemporary authors who are writing presently in their languages? I'm more keen on young authors there also.
And the other part of the question is for both of you. Writers, how do you pay your writers? How, there's always this grouse that writers aren't, the authors, they're not paid enough. So what is the benchmark?
Yeah, well, basically people don't talk about pay enough in the publishing industry. I don't know what it is like, the discussion here, but in the UK, it's very behind closed doors. Indeed, it is for most salaries in companies, and publishing is slightly worse than that. So kind of to give you an idea, for example, my friend who writes romance novels, she has an agent, and she's kind of one of these, in romance, you almost mass produce, for the commercial reader. And so she gets 5%, but because she has an agent, it's more like 3%. So typically the agents in the UK will take between 15 to 20% of the royalties. And so royalties can vary. If you're a commercial offer like that, it's about 5%. If you are sort of more literary, it might be around 10%, and that's gross. For ourselves, we always start our royalties at 17%. Missing off a 10 there. 17%. But with independent publishers, we do royalties a little bit differently. Obviously, we have advances if that's part of the discussion. But also we... what was I going to say? My mind's just gone blank. Oh, that was it. So we go with something called net instead of gross, and that's because, for example, in the UK, when we sell a book to the wholesaler, there's only one now in the UK because unfortunately a lot of them have closed. So it's called Gardeners, and they will distribute to all our chain bookshops. And you probably, if the book is around £10, so that would be sort of the standard, maybe standard price here, but then that book you probably lose 91% of the cover price. So because of that, if you give gross, then you would lose money on the current royalty rate in the UK. So it depends. If we sell from our website, the author gets 3 times the amount than they do from a bookshop. And that's a challenge in itself, because we really value bookshops and we do sell a lot to bookshops. And then that means that I'm also posting a lot of books from my flat, which is another thing in my evenings. Yes, but we do offer, probably it's about 4 times more than the industry standard because we really value authors and we value their careers and we value the fact that they have to eat. So yeah, I'd say it's tough. And also when you calculate royalties, you have to think about the author's potential as well. So you give more or less, and we do something called... forgotten the term for it, but basically after a certain baseline of units sold, the author will get more percentage. So, it might go up to even 30% net royalties, depending on, how proud we are of the book and how much we want to keep the author. If they're an editor as well, so like a compiler, they'll get even more because we recognize the amount of work that it takes to do that, if it's an anthology, for example. So yeah, we're an ethical publisher and we want to give ethical rates.
Right.
Thanks very much. Another question?
Just one answer. So we pay 10% royalty standard actually for us. And in fact, many of the celebrated authors are very angry with me because I don't publish their books and they won't get 10% with other publishers.
Okay. One more question? Okay, one really quick question.
Thank you so much. Wonderful session. My question goes to both of you. There are difficult topics like religion, politics, LGBTQ, mental trauma and all that. Indie publishers, as you said, that they feel certain kind of liberation to talk about those topics. Are there certain topics, in your opinion, where you feel that you don't want to rock the boat, that you can't take the risk?
Okay, really, really complex question. Now, the screen is flashing red saying time's up, so can we sort of try to do our best to answer that as quickly as possible?
Yes, so we're really big on intersectional feminism, want to champion that. I think it's not that we wouldn't publish certain things, but when it comes to, and we have published really controversial things on religion, but I guess you have to be careful with that, I would say, depending on what branch of religion or which, left wing, right wing, or, whatever you're doing, you have to speak to the community first. we have a book called Disobedient Women that is kind of, towing the line, hasn't yet been published in India because it may be too controversial about Indian politics, so it's that kind of line.
Yeah, it's a same case. In India, if we are publishing anything related to religion and the caste, you have to be double careful, actually, what you are. Try to see that you are not hurting others. If you are telling fact in a realistic way and with a sensible way, they will accept. But if you try to hurt people, there will be controversies, and that can be dangerous. So I am careful about it. Yeah. So I am here to spread the knowledge, but not to create controversies and create the problems in the society. I'm very careful about it.
Great. Thanks very much. If there are any aspiring writers or independent publishers in the audience that would like to learn more about the British Council's offer and the International Publishing Fellowship, please come up and say hello to us after the session. And in the meantime, please join me in wishing Isabelle and Vasu all the best of luck for the future. You've both got really exciting plans to grow, and we wish you all the best of luck in your work.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you very much.